nudge theory, and the world of algorithms. Let us begin with a question. Who decided what you would have for breakfast today? Which socks you would wear? How you would get to work? And whether you needed to bring an umbrella? Who chooses the music you listen to on the way? The news that appears in your feed? And which series you will watch tonight? And here's another thought. Who decides whether you will successfully hit the urinal today, or whether, as usual, you will miss just a little? Do you think this is solely your decision? Far from it. This too can be influenced. At Amsterdam's airport, men missed the urinals far too often. As a result, management had to spend a fortune on extra cleaning. Signs saying, "Keep a grip on yourself," or "Be more accurate," didn't work. So instead, they stuck tiny images of flies inside the urinals. They were just stickers, but visitors began to subconsciously aim at them. Consequently, cleaning costs dropped by 15%. I have encountered such toilets all over the world. Yes. And now notice, not a word was said to me, yet my actions changed. This is not the only example, but merely the tip of the iceberg from which we begin this episode. This iceberg is called nudge theory. It nudges people toward decisions they didn't originally intend to make. There is even a specific term for it, a nudge. In the case of the urinal, that tiny fly was the nudge. You may have never thought about nudges, but in reality they are everywhere. What are they nudging you toward? That depends on who is implementing the nudge. The Icelandic government wanted people to stop speeding, so instead of ordinary zebra crossings, they painted 3D optical illusions. As a result, drivers began to subconsciously slow down. To prevent pedestrians from crossing on red, traffic lights in Germany motivate them to wait. Instead of buttons, they have ping pong machines. While you wait, you compete with a person on the other side of the street, a new opponent every time. Here is another example. At a Swedish subway station, a staircase was turned into a piano where the keys produce sounds with every step. People began to use the stairs out of curiosity and stopped crowding the escalator. In Japanese mountain roads, they made special grooves in the pavement. If you drive over them at the correct speed, you will hear themes of Evangelion or Spirited Away. If you go faster, the rhythm will falter, or the music won't play at all. All these nudges are easy to see or hear because they literally stand out from the world around us, but the most cunning ones are impossible to notice. Do you know what Austria did when faced with a shortage of organ donors? The government didn't campaign or ask people, sign a contract to donate your organs. They acted more cleverly. They simply made all adults organ donors by default. To opt out of such a practice, you have to spend time and go somewhere to register specifically. In short, you have to navigate a bureaucratic path. Most people are simply too lazy. Others simply don't know. Noticing such nudges is practically impossible, as they are neatly woven into your daily life. But it is even easier to hide them in the smartphone in your hand. If in the physical world one needs, for instance, to spend tons of paint on 3D crossings to make drivers behave, in an online service like car sharing, it is enough to introduce a driver rating. The car will collect data on sudden acceleration, braking, and various violations, giving discounts to the most careful drivers. Thus, drivers find the motivation to drive smoothly. And here is the most interesting part. To manage your behavior online, no human is required. Everything online is managed by algorithms. One of the most famous is the recommendation algorithm. Don't know how to decorate your new apartment? The marketplace will suggest ready-made options. The feeds of Netflix and Spotify will bring you films and tracks that will become your favorites. Even a partner is thoughtfully suggested by Tinder. Algorithms are like your personal assistant, adapting to your behavior and selecting products and information for you. All that is required from you is a final okay, so that you don't feel your opinion is worthless. We are growing accustomed to this reality. How algorithms work, from if-then to neural networks. Now you will find out why no one in the world actually knows how to solve a Rubik's Cube. How does Tinder rank everyone by a beauty rating? Who asks you to give up your firstborn in exchange for Wi-Fi? Why do websites need your cookies, and what does your digital portrait look like? What do TikTok and a slot machine have in common? Why do we no longer listen to music by the album? When did bots on the internet outnumber humans? How can you step outside your information bubble? In which algorithm has been predicting your desires for nearly 50 years? This will be a good old-fashioned text about technology in the future that has already arrived. You simply haven't noticed it yet. Vitamin B6, stretch mark cream, moisturizing lotion, and a pack of zinc. Apparently, I am pregnant. At least, that is what an algorithm would say if it saw such a shopping cart in my delivery app. This is exactly how, in 2002, an internet algorithm predicted a young woman's pregnancy before her parents even knew, and simultaneously sent diaper coupons to her father, the future grandfather. It did this without any human intervention. It simply looked at the young woman's purchases in the then popular Target store and decided that with such a cart, one could only be pregnant. What kind of algorithm was this? One of the simplest, called if-then. For every person, this algorithm created a pregnancy index and then monitored what they bought. Ordered unscented cosmetics because everything is annoying lately? +1 to your pregnancy index. Added vitamins to the cart because the body is lacking them? The index goes up again. Threw in some stretch mark cream? The point of no return has been passed, and the algorithm sends a discount coupon for diapers. A brilliant promotion, thought the marketers, because pregnant women and young mothers are a literal goldmine for them. A perfect reason to sue, thought the mothers. The feature was shut down almost immediately because users didn't like someone prying into their private lives. But it seems if-then algorithms are in every store. A user buys a phone, suggest a case or a screen protector. Sound familiar? That is how the first if-then algorithms functioned. They compared you with pre-existing patterns and provided a suggestion. Do you think this is primitive? Yet 70 years ago, mathematicians proved that absolutely any task that can be solved in principle can be solved using if-then logic. Here's my favorite example of how to fix absolutely anything. Does it move? Should it move? If it doesn't move but should, use WD-40. If it does move but shouldn't, use duct tape. It sounds like a meme, but in reality, the same logic is used to teach a parrot to speak or to choose a podcast. There is even a logic map to launch Windows. The more complex the task, the larger the map. You design the logic once, and you follow it for life. This is exactly why almost no one in the world actually knows how to solve a Rubik's Cube. Nevertheless, they solve it because they follow an if-then algorithm. If you have solved one side, then solve the centerpieces next to it. If you have solved those, then fill the second layer of each side, and so on. With such an if-then algorithm, robotic arms can solve a Rubik's Cube in fractions of a second. To begin, let's answer the question, why does surge pricing actually kick in? Is it because it's raining outside? Or perhaps because of traffic jams caused by a rock star's concert? Not at all. Algorithms have one goal, to ensure the number of available cars equals the number of people wanting a ride. Here is the simplest map of how this algorithm works. Look, if there are fewer taxi drivers than passengers, raise the price slightly and wait. Still fewer? Raise it again. Is it balanced? Then the job is done. Return to the baseline. That is how the algorithm thinks. Thus, the algorithm not only raises the price, but also returns it to the base level once there are enough cars for everyone. A simple rule, if-then. However, this triggers a chain of dominoes that regulates supply and demand. When the algorithm raises the price slightly, taxi drivers see profitable orders in the form of purple zones on the map. That is where there are fewer drivers than people wanting to travel. Therefore, the price is higher and they can earn more. Some people go on duty specifically for this reason. That was one side of the equation, the drivers. On the other side is you, looking at the price and choosing whether to take public transport, a car share, or, if the weather is nice, an electric scooter. Do you still want to take a taxi and save money at the same time? The algorithm will offer you several options. For example, sharing a car with another passenger, walking a bit to a point where it's faster, or waiting a little while, and then the order will be taken by a driver already heading your way. In each case, the trip becomes cheaper for you. And now the main point. As a result, the person who truly needs to go, even during high demand, is guaranteed a ride. All thanks to algorithms. They motivate drivers to take orders where taxis are needed most and encourage you to value your time and money. Some are willing to pay for speed, while others are ready to look for alternatives. Thus, you yourself influence the equation, and at its core is a set of simple if-then rules. Such algorithms are called knowledge-based or knowing. This means a developer took real-world knowledge and wrote it as rules. If A, then B. They're hard-coded and do not change during operation. If cars are scarce, raise the price. If a mechanism is jammed, apply WD-40. If a user buys a phone, suggest a case. That is how the first recommendations worked. However, sometimes their literalism bordered on the absurd. Just bought an apartment in Dubai? Perhaps these 5 apartments in Paris will be useful to you also. Or this, a 2007 MacBook is rated 5.0, while a 2014 is 4.9. Therefore, the old one must be better. All this happened because such algorithms did not understand context. To them, a phone stand, a balaclava, a MacBook, and an apartment were all the same thing. Therefore, knowing algorithms were replaced by others, experienced ones, in the sense that they relied not on patterns, but on the experience of the users themselves. If someone likes Marvel movies and the series Stranger Things, and you have watched the latest adventures, then they can confidently suggest Stranger Things to you next. If knowing algorithms tried to find the perfect match between you and a product, experienced algorithms look for a match between 2 people in their behavior. These algorithms also don't care about our world. They don't understand context, logic, or common sense. To them, everything is anonymized because the main thing is to suggest what your friends by interest liked, even if you have never seen these friends in your life. On one hand, this worked brilliantly in practice. But on the other, if you ordered a baseball bat on Amazon in 2012, the algorithm didn't suggest pain relief ointment, it suggested a balaclava, because someone else had already ordered them in that exact combination. Such things are easy to fix manually. Otherwise, an experienced algorithm works much faster and more accurately than a knowing one, because you don't need to feed it any knowledge. It looks at our world itself and finds patterns. This is precisely what allowed them to recommend not just a phone case, but your future partner. Yes, I am talking about Tinder, Bumble, and other dating apps. How can love, romance, or even simple attractiveness be reduced to algorithms, to a binary system of prime numbers? It's simple. You have to look at relationships like chess. On the popular site chess.com, beginners have 800 points and fight those with the same rating. It doesn't matter how long they've been playing. If you win, your rating rises and your opponents become stronger. A pro rating is around 2,400. Now imagine the same thing working in dating. If you have 800, Tinder simply won't show you a girl with 2,400. You haven't made the grade yet. But if a girl with 1,000 rating likes you, your chances rise slightly. It's just like the first episode of the 3rd season of Black Mirror, where everyone had a rating and only interacted with their own kind. And this isn't surrealism, it is the actual description of the Tinder algorithm until 2019. This means that according to Tinder, somewhere on Earth there was the most attractive person, and somewhere else the most hideous individual, and in Tinder they would never meet. When this was revealed, news sites everywhere wrote that Tinder knows your level of attractiveness but will never, ever tell you. Therefore, by 2019, Tinder created a new algorithm that collects behavioral data and builds from that. Do you log in the evenings? Catch those who do the same. Wrote in your profile that you love dogs? Then cat lovers will be shown less frequently. Love loud parties? Stay-at-homes with a book and a glass of wine will also decrease. It's simple. If you act this way, you need partners who are similar. Do you think opposites attract and those are the ones that should be suggested? Scientists would disagree. An analysis of 80,000 couples worldwide showed that in most pairs, people share the same political views, level of religiosity, and education. Even people with a similar waist-to-hip ratio are attracted to each other. One can only guess why. Data, cookies, and privacy. Let's continue the podcast. A baseball bat and a balaclava on Amazon, series on Netflix, and partners on Tinder. These are all experience-based algorithms. They first learned your interests and then suggested what worked for people like you. But they have one major drawback. That experience has to be obtained somewhere. Tinder needs to find out exactly what you are interested in and what kind of partners to find for you. And the simplest way is to ask you directly. When you first join Tinder, it shows you your first partners at random. First, thin blondes, then muscular brunettes and some Asians as well. While you swipe them, it remembers who you like more, so it can suggest those types later. It's like Reels. Watch a couple of videos about a wild cucumber, and suddenly they've taken over your entire feed. Asking for user data, or collecting it along the way, is just one method. What are its downsides? If we are talking not about Tinder, but say about advertising, you won't agree to swipe through ad offers to find what you truly like. Secondly, you would delete TikTok if on the first day of use it showed you complete garbage that doesn't interest you, while it tries to figure out your tastes. Instead, companies came up with a much more cunning and simple way. It's called a magic cookie, or more accurately, cookies. This is the data you share with websites on the internet, which is used to build your anonymized digital portrait. Cookies are like a school questionnaire about your tastes, hobbies, and favorite movie, except the question, "What is your name?" isn't there. Instead, there is your language, country, how often you visit the site, and how much and where you click. Essentially, all websites are connected to each other through these cookies. If you read about Louboutins, don't be surprised when you see a banner on a marketplace suggesting you buy them. But why on earth do websites do this? You agreed to it yourself when you first entered the site, but who actually reads those user agreements, right? The company Purple Wi-Fi, as an experiment, inserted a clause into its agreement stating that anyone who connected to their free Wi-Fi was obligated to perform 1,000 hours of community service, cleaning toilets and scrubbing sewers. 22,000 people checked the box and agreed to this venture. Cruel, but funny. Let's move on. In London, they similarly received permission to take the firstborn of everyone who connected to the Wi-Fi. Only a few noticed the catch. Of course, no children were taken, but such experiments prove that few people read user agreements, and that's normal. It's not that you are stupid. The task itself is simply too labor-intensive. Reading the TikTok user agreement takes 31 minutes, Wi-Fi takes 35, Microsoft takes an entire hour, and it isn't an engaging read, but dry legal text. Therefore, you can say, "No cookie, go to hell." By the way, I always agree, and it turns out I didn't have to. Let's see what happens if you forbid absolutely all websites from reading your data. Most of the time, nothing will change. You will be able to scroll the feed, see prices, and read everything that interests you. However, personalization will disappear. You won't be able to fill a cart on a marketplace and place an order because the site will forget who you are. The same goes for music. It will play, but there will be no recommendations. So, here are clear instructions: when to give cookies and when to refuse. If a site doesn't need to know who you are, you just came to read some info, hit refuse. You won't lose anything. But if a site needs to remember something about you, like a cart, your tastes, or anything else, then give consent. Life will be much simpler that way. Let's summarize. Thanks to clauses and user agreements in the cookies of various websites, corporations collect big data that can now be used to teach algorithms to understand you. The era of transformers in neural networks. Okay, on one hand, we have a lot of data to train algorithms. On the other, we have clear yardsticks to compare them. But what about the fact that the more data there is, the more complex the algorithm becomes and the slower it works? Actually, that was only true until the 2010s. That's when algorithms appeared that work in the exact opposite way. The more data you give them, the more accurately they perform. and I am talking about neural networks. Look at how the growth of big data boosted neural networks. As soon as people in the 2010s started mass-producing content, spending time on social media and filming Vines and TikToks, the amount of data on the internet skyrocketed, and neural networks immediately began an explosive growth. Now let's remember the most important thing. The entire world is numbers. You, your thoughts, your grandmother, your way to school, these are numbers. An image is just a set of pixels, and the color of each pixel is numbers from the RGB palette. Sounds are waves with their own lengths and frequencies, which are also numbers. Do you think all our knowledge, history, and culture is text? Yes, you are right, it is text, but text is also numbers. This means our reality for neural networks is numbers. That's why networks like VO3 generate different plots so well. Modern recommendations work precisely on the principle of a generator. More accurately, if we oversimplify, it's T9. That technology from button-operated phones, remember? You type 2 letters and it gives you 3 words to choose from. This very idea helped create the most perfect architecture for neural networks, the transformer. It lies at the heart of ChatGPT in nearly all top recommendation algorithms. Recently, a similar transformer-based model has been adopted by recommendation systems. You surely know about the neural network race, VO3, ChatGPT, and so on. But in fact, a similar race exists in the world of recommendations, because for TikTok and YouTube, this is the core technology. So imagine that instead of words, it's now all of your activity. It doesn't matter what you write or say, the algorithm only looks at your actions. You can try as hard as you like to act young, walk around with a cup of Bumble coffee, and speak in Gen Z slang, but the neural network sees you as 17-42-37 and a bunch of other numbers. Or, in neural network speak, you are a boomer, and therefore your recommendations will be boomer ones, and you will be perfectly happy with that, because it's what you love. And right now, their recommendations work exactly on this principle. What does this give them? It means algorithms remember more and more about you. Today, it's already years of your likes and dislikes. They understand your behavior better and account for seasonality. If last summer you went to a marketplace and ordered a rubber duck, it won't recommend it in autumn or winter. It'll wait until next summer and suggest an inflatable boat. A transformer easily sees these connections. It knows nothing about our world, but through your actions, it understands what time of year it is and what mood you're in. In the future, perhaps an algorithm will be able to remember your interests for your entire life and recommend what you like or would have liked in the future. However, another risk appears in this world: getting stuck in what you already love and never learning anything new. Liked funk in your playlist? Want more? Here is more funk, more and more. If nothing is done, you will get stuck in funk forever and grow to hate it. To avoid this, neural networks are specially taught to provide something new every few tracks. And it's not just something random, but something that might actually suit you. Studies show that fans of heavy metal like instrumental music, while 25-year-olds are interested in Beethoven and Mozart. There might be no logic in this, but streaming will catch it and recommend it anyway. This means algorithms offer not only what is similar to the old stuff, but something absolutely new. Because if they know you well, both tasks are equally simple: the end of the album era and the future. But since playlists are made of tracks by different artists, something has happened in this world. People have stopped listening to music by the album. The English singer Adele succeeded in getting Spotify to remove the shuffle button from her album 30 because she considers it a single story and a therapy that must be experienced from beginning to end. Algorithms broke the singer's idea and she had to restore it manually. This is because the entire world is already listening to new music by new rules in their personal selections, one track at a time. Please give me singles, not albums. I don't have time for an album. I don't mind, because individual selections of one track from different albums are actually convenient and don't let viewers or listeners get bored. Plus, it gives a massive wave of popularity to new artists who only have a few tracks. Recommendation algorithms are changing how we consume information. There is already so much data on the internet that our brains simply cannot cope. This is the main task of algorithms, to make part of the choice for you and bring you a ready-made option. In a Chinese KFC, cameras near the checkout read your gender and age in a fraction of a second to offer young couples burger meal deals and women over 50 soy milk. These are the items most frequently purchased at their age. Screens at checkout in British gas stations work the same way. Even in football broadcasts, advertising depends on the country. For Americans, it's car rentals. For the British, it's betting. And for Asians, it's banks. Such personalized advertising offers you goods and services you hadn't thought of before, but which might be useful and likely beneficial. The same applies to content consumption, such as TV series. If you watch one episode after another, the service will draw you in, and you will surely renew your subscription. A TikTok feed is compared to the lever of a slot machine, as it forces you into a state of flow in exactly the same way. That is why Netflix added a feed of short clips with snippets from series to its app. Swipe right, the series goes into the queue.
Netflix also specifically changes its covers for viewers. White people are shown standard versions, while black people are shown versions featuring black characters, even if they have minor roles in the film. The service is essentially saying, look, we really tried for you here. There are people like you here. Go watch it. All these nudges sound harmless, but in reality, they can influence our entire society. 10 years ago, anyone could take a psychological test on social media. After a few questions, it truly provided your psychological portrait, but it also added your data, birth date, and likes. In the hands of the company Cambridge Analytica, which launched this test, there were digital portraits of 87 million users. Because of this, the company learned to guess your character traits, values, and even skin color from just 68 likes. What did this give them? The ability to influence the politics of entire countries. Once, in the small Caribbean country of Trinidad and Tobago, an ad appeared with the slogan, "Do so," meaning do it, which meant ignore the elections, don't get involved in politics. The catch was that only black youth saw this ad. Under the influence of the ad, black youth did not come to the elections, while the Indian youth were brought by their parents. Their families are more conservative, and the children didn't dare disobey. As a result, the candidate from the Indian Party won. Similarly, Cambridge Analytica helped Trump win the 2016 election, suppressed inconvenient candidates in Kenya in 2017, and helped Britain leave the European Union. For this, Britain was fined $640,000, and the social network whose data Cambridge Analytica used was fined another $5 billion. Ultimately, in 2018, Cambridge Analytica went bankrupt. Netflix filmed The Great Hack based on its story. The most interesting part of this case is that people turned out to be easy to sort into folders, some to the left, some to the right, conservatives, liberals, for Brexit and against it. If previously people from one folder could learn the opinion of people from another and change their minds, today a newsfeed will only show what fits their views, and they can only discuss this with the same oddballs as themselves. This is all because an information bubble has formed around each of us. Everyone found themselves in their own cozy but isolated room. Today, YouTube by default can plunge any user into conspiracy theories. Watch one video, then another, and suddenly your entire feed consists of conspiracies. This is why YouTube specifically changed the algorithm to show fewer conspiracy theories to everyone. And under videos on controversial topics, YouTube itself began writing comments from Wikipedia, so you can go to a neutral source and read the dry facts. But what if, as technology develops, you find yourself in an information bubble not with millions of anti-vaxxers or thousands of flat earthers, but in a bubble created individually for you? Imagine that all content is generated just for you. For 40-year-olds, I will be 40. For the young, I will be young. For Gen Z, our integrations will be bright and short. For boomers, calm and resembling presentations. Films, for example, will have several different endings. If you like happy endings with love, there will be one. If you like bad endings where everyone dies, there will be one. Netflix has already promised by 2026 to generate advertising using artificial intelligence to fit products into the context of series. For now, it will only run when you pause a series. Imagine the hero of Stranger Things is running from a monster, sweating, and then bam, pause. And this wouldn't have happened with our deodorant. With it, you are always dry. A short pit stop and you can keep running. What if even bedtime stories for children were individual? And here you are, adults, discussing the story of Blue Riding Hood. Except for some reason, for one friend, the grandmother was eaten by a boar, while for another, instead of a grandmother, there was a school teacher. Where's the truth? There isn't any. In April of this year, bot traffic exceeded human traffic on the internet. So much content is generated that the dead internet theory has emerged. It states that almost no real people are left on the internet. All content is created by bots, and you and I are the last living humans.
Now let's look a bit further into the future. How does this sound? In one experiment, people were asked to press a button every time they felt the urge. Scientists, meanwhile, watched their brain activity. They noticed that before every press, a certain part of the brain lit up. Consequently, by looking at this area, scientists learned to predict that in about a second, you would want to press the button. That is, they predict what you will want to do in the future. And the most interesting part? The prediction worked every time. And now, surprise, this experiment was conducted in the 80s. Do you know how it works today? In March of this year, Elon Musk's Neuralink chip was implanted into a third patient. The first one plays chess with his thoughts, the second plays Counter-Strike, the third edits videos. And this very video was literally created by the power of his thoughts. It turns out the chip has already gained access to the thoughts of these people. What if, in the future, these same technologies help algorithms understand us better? Are you ready for such a future? Or should we perhaps step back and live, say, in the good old world without algorithms at all? First, look at what that world was like. To choose a book in 1909, for example, one could buy Dr. Eliot's 5-foot shelf of books. This was a selection of 50 volumes from the president of Harvard. In them was what, in his opinion, everyone was obligated to read in their lifetime. In the 20s, movies became fashionable, and for them, recommendations appeared too. It's called the Oscars. But only this year was the Oscar jury obligated to watch the films they vote for. This means that before now, it wasn't mandatory. Do you understand? Any jury member could walk on stage and say, "I haven't seen Anora, but I think it's the best film of the year." And you trust these people with your choice? Algorithms have no problems with time or attention. Moreover, they suggest content not to a broad audience, but what fits you personally. And recommendation systems don't take control of your life. They only help you navigate the ocean of possibilities, because they know what you will like. But this is just the beginning. Add to this multimodality, the fact that neural networks can already combine information from different sources: photos, sounds, your voice, search queries, and much more. Here is what life might look like in 2030. A dating app will automatically put your date tonight on your calendar. A smart speaker will read a motivational speech in the spirit of the heroes of Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, or Star Wars, whatever you liked more in your childhood. A map will suggest a selection of 10 restaurants that suit the tastes of both you and your match. A weather app will remind you to take an umbrella because it will rain today, and also suggest an alternative, watching something together at home. Plus, as I said, films with your favorite endings. For example, if you want happy endings, there you go. If you want blood and gore, also please, as you wish. You are black? Okay, all the heroes are black. You're a damn occupier from Russia? All the heroes are occupiers from Russia. Even Tom Cruise. The question of what to eat with a specific movie or series no longer exists. You turn on Miyazaki and juicy ramen is already on its way to you. Finally, streaming will prepare 2 playlists, an upbeat one in case everything worked out and you smatchied, or a sad one if you didn't connect with your partner. Especially since tomorrow is a new day and there will be new recommendations. It won't be algorithms deciding what you eat, what music you listen to, or how you spend your time, but they will analyze your life and bring you ready-made selections of solutions as if you had found them yourself, and what to choose is up to you. Most importantly, don't lock yourself in your information bubble.
And as usual, keep training your brain. Bye, and don't forget to follow the new episodes of the 717 podcast. We are on all platforms, even on YouTube.